Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas on Monday temporarily blocked a subpoena demanding testimony from Republican Senator Lindsey Graham of South Carolina by a Georgia grand jury investigating former President Donald Trump's election interference. The quashing of the subpoena came 3 days after Graham's attorneys asked Thomas to delay the senator's appearance before the grand jury investigating possible criminal interference in Georgia's 2020 presidential election. On Thursday, a panel of judges on the 11th Circuit U.S. Court of Appeals unanimously rejected a request by Graham to temporarily block the subpoena, which calls for the senator to testify on November 17 in an Atlanta courthouse. The appellate body said Graham had failed to demonstrate that he was likely to succeed in an appeal challenging the legality of the demand for his testimony. Last month, a federal district judge upheld the legality of the grand jury subpoena. The grand jury is specifically examining the actions of Trump and his allies, including Graham, in reaching out to state election officials and others following the election won in that state and nationally by President Joe Biden. Trump pressured state officials to take actions that could have overturned Biden's victory, as part of similar efforts in other swing states whose losses to Trump ensured his Electoral College defeat. In an early January 2021 phone call with Georgia Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger, Trump urged him to cast enough votes to nullify Biden's lead to victory. Thomas, who handles emergency motions like Graham's issued by the 11th Federal District, withheld the subpoena of his own volition without referring the issue to the entire Supreme Court. The conservative justice said the subpoena would be deferred pending further orders from Thomas or the Supreme Court. 2 days before he issued the stay, Thomas asked the Fulton County, Georgia prosecutors, who are presenting evidence to the grand jury, to answer Graham's request for a stay of the subpoena by Thursday. The stay will give Graham's attorneys and prosecutors more time to file briefs debating whether or not the subpoena should stand. Graham's attorney, Donald McGahn, did not immediately respond to a request for comment. A spokesman for Fulton County District Attorney Fani Willis declined to comment, saying prosecutors would respond to Graham's application to the Supreme Court on Thursday, as directed by Thomas. Graham has argued that the subpoena violates the U.S. Constitution's speech and debate clause, which protects members of Congress from legal risk from their comments related to legislative business. He claims his call to Raffensperger after Election Day 2020 was part of a legal investigation. But the 11th Circuit panel said in its ruling last week that a federal district court judge had ordered a Fulton County prosecutor not to question Graham on parts of the call that qualify as legislative activity. As the court determined, there is significant dispute about whether his phone calls with Georgia election officials were legislative investigations at all, said the Court of Appeals verdict.